Hello, I'm Emma Howard and we're talking about breastfeeding here on the Baby Channel. With me is Heather Welford from the NCT. Heather, you're a breastfeeding counsellor and we've been talking to you with a number of other babies at different stages before now. Now, I've got my little one here, Scarlett. Scarlett's my second baby and I found breastfeeding very easy with her, but I didn't first time with my son and almost considered giving up with her. I'm very, very glad I didn't, but I'm told I'm typical. Would you say, well, maybe not typical, but it certainly is quite a common experience?
Yeah, people sometimes don't have a good experience first time round and they may think about bottle feeding second time round, but you're not untypical. Lots of people are like you in that they have a brilliant experience the second time round. Things seem to fall into place. If they perhaps weren't very well supported or if they had poor advice in hospital with baby number one, they're a little bit more informed with baby number two. And people don't need to worry that they won't have time for the toddler and the new baby, because with breastfeeding, I bet you found this, you've got a spare arm to cuddle the toddler.
Oh yes.
Build a Lego man, read a story, do all sorts of other things, whereas you wouldn't have it with a bottle.
No, that's very true. I don't know how good my building of towers is, but certainly a toddler does often want reassurance while you're feeding the second baby. And yes, I have that arm and I can cuddle the toddler, that's true. But I think the confidence is the key thing though, isn't it? First time around, you are told it's natural, you are told that it will all fall into place, but so many women don't find that's the case. I think most women have a difficult start. It's a learning experience for both you and the baby, isn't it?
That's right. All the instincts are there in the baby. If the baby's born healthy and energetic, the baby will have sucking and swallowing instincts.
Although some babies can be lazy feeders, can't they?
They can, and they may need a little bit extra encouragement, and the mum needs a lot of support while that difficult time is taking place. And the mum also needs some information on techniques sometimes to get herself and the baby into a position where it doesn't hurt, because soreness is one of the biggest reasons why women switch to the bottle, and it is almost always avoidable with the right technique.
So it's positioning. Positioning is everything.
The attachment of the baby, the positioning in terms of how the mother is sitting and where the baby is less crucial than how the baby takes the nipple and the breast into
so
the
how
mouth.
the baby is attached to the breast.
That's right.
But in terms of sitting, the sofa you're sitting on is a perfectly fine seat to have to feed a baby, isn't it? You don't need to buy a special chair.
You don't. It's nice if you can give yourself a nice treat with that, but you can breastfeed in any position really, as long as you're comfortable and the baby's comfortable. Some mothers learn to breastfeed lying down, which is a good way of getting your feet up and having a rest yourself.
And then you can sort of put one under the arm, the football position, can't you? Especially with twins. I've seen mothers holding their babies' heads underneath the breast and the body is...
I know, it's very impressive.
It's
that
very
when you do
impressive.
it two at once.
I'm in awe of that.
Yeah, and there's different ways of holding the baby's body as well, but the crucial thing is that mouth open, the baby shouldn't have his chin tucked into his chest, the chin should be touching the breast, and the nose normally is free, and that means the head is ever so slightly tipped back, which gives a good sucking and swallowing position. I mean, if you try to drink a cup of tea with your chin tucked into your chest, you'd find it rather difficult. Well,
same principle applies.
Babies need to be comfortable, and their mouths and their heads and their necks in a good position for sucking and swallowing.
And you do get there in the end, but the beginning is hard because often the milk comes in, you've got engorged breasts, you've got this little baby with a tiny little mouth. Lots of mothers are scared they're going to suffocate their baby against their breast.
Yeah, it's a good idea for mothers to get help if they're feeling that lacking in confidence, to seek out somebody in hospital or at home, if they're seeing the community midwife, or they can
ring the NCT, can't they?
They can. We've got a special the breastfeeding line, and there's other organisations and other local sources of support. You can get somebody who knows what they're looking for, who can help you with that technique. And if it's hurting and it's not getting better, then it's almost certain your baby looks as if she's a little in need of a little snack.
I know. Shall we feed you, darling?
It shouldn't. It really shouldn't hurt. It's not good enough for somebody to tell you, oh, it shouldn't hurt, you must be doing it wrong, and then disappearing. You know, you need some guidance on that technique.
And you need the tools. Why are we getting worse, it seems, at breastfeeding, in the sense that a few hundred years ago as a community, I mean, because there was no other option, we did it so well. Why is modern life kind of corroding it, do you think?
Yeah, I think the tide is turning as more of us realise the benefits of breastfeeding and how convenient it can be. When you get it going, it's a convenient and effective and comfortable way to feed your baby. So I feel the tide is turning. But in the last generation or so, we have lost some of the skills that mothers grew up just knowing. I mean, they knew what a baby looked like feeding on the breast because they'd seen their mothers and their aunts and their friends doing it without making much of a big deal.
And they lived in those communities. And of course, modern women very often don't live in that kind of community. Their mother is far away, or their sister.
Yeah, or maybe these days the mother and the sister didn't breastfeed. So this is where other sources of help can be very, very important.
So groups, go and get support from women who are at the same stage, or maybe a bit further on, have been through the same problems.
Yeah.
Should you take any supplements while you're breastfeeding? Because you can take supplements when you're pregnant. A lot of them say carry on while you're breastfeeding. Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, it won't do you any harm, but the great thing about breastfeeding is that it's pretty robust. You don't really need to eat anything in particular, or you don't need to go to great lengths to drink anything in particular or drink large quantities. A lot of women are a bit thirstier when they're breastfeeding. So
we've always been told to make sure you have a large glass of water by your side while you're breastfeeding.
Well, because you might be thirsty during the breastfeed and it's convenient for you to have that, but you don't need to make a big thing about having any more drink than you need to satisfy your thirst.
So the body really is taking care of itself.
It really does, yeah.
But you do need to make sure that you take care of you, don't you? Because that's the best thing to help your baby. So try not to overdo it.
I think it's tiring to have a new baby and those extra responsibilities and the broken nights that are inevitable. So yes, look after yourself. But if you don't, your breastfeeding won't suffer. You might suffer, but the breastfeeding will carry on regardless.
Because that's a survival technique.
It is. It's nature looking after the next generation. That's not to say that you should deliberately ignore the needs to have a good diet. No. But your baby will be fine. People have breastfed throughout history in extraordinary circumstances when they haven't been sure about where the next meal's coming from. And we can do the same in our society as well. No different.
Does breast milk supply everything the baby needs?
Yes, it does. We know that it has everything the baby needs for about the first 6 months of a baby's life. So that's food and drink. The baby doesn't need any extra water, doesn't need juice, doesn't need any extra formula. When breastfeeding is going well, you're supplying everything the baby needs to grow and thrive.
And now advice has changed from the government. When I had my first child a few years ago, wean them at 4 months was the advice. Now it's moved to 6 months. That can be a lot easier for a lot of mums, can't it? They shouldn't be anxious about that.
Well, the great thing about waiting that little bit longer is your baby is a couple of months further down the road developmentally, and the baby can hold little bits of food and enjoy that experience of putting it in his mouth and making a lovely mess, all that sort of thing. You don't need to be so conscious about restricting the baby's diet. The baby can have most things at age 6 months, so you can move the baby onto appropriate sort of family meals a lot sooner than you would otherwise.
And breastfeed alongside.
Oh yes, you don't stop at 6 months. Breast milk continues to be a nutritious food and drink for as long as you want to give it.
Because cow's milk doesn't really become a drink until the baby's about a year old, does it?
That's right. The current advice is that if the baby is having a drink of milk in the first year, it should be breast milk or formula. After 12 months, it can be cow's milk. Doorstep milk, milkman's milk, or breast milk. And as I say, you can continue giving breast milk, which is a nutritious package, food and drink all in one, for as long as you want to give it.
And why do you think still so many women, particularly in the United Kingdom, give up so early? Do you think we're just not preparing women today for how tough it is in those first few weeks? It gets better, it becomes a wonderful experience, but those first few weeks are really quite a shock and remain that way.
That's right, and it's a real shame, isn't it? I mean, here you are feeding Scarlett, and I would say it's easy for you.
It's easy
Emma.
now, yes.
And it's convenient, and mothers who stop in the first weeks don't get to that stage when it really is a convenient, easy. You don't need to prepare it. Night feeds are more convenient, and giving up in the early weeks can mean that you miss out on the best part of it.
And yes, it's such a hurdle. I really understand why people do, because it is so tough, and I think it's the lack of preparation I mean, do you feel that the NCT are doing all they can to prepare women for how tough it can be in the first few weeks? Because your sense of failure is really quite huge, isn't it?
That's right. This is one of the difficulties I have with the campaign to encourage women to breastfeed, because that's only half the story. Women need to understand that there are certain support, certain techniques that make breastfeeding easier and more rewarding. So it's no good telling women it's a wonderful thing to do and then not giving them the support when they need to do it. Preparing women in pregnancy only goes so far, because the reality can hit you, and unfortunately in this country there is a shortage of midwives, both in hospital and in the community, and mothers may not have the right sort of help when they really need it.
So the key is to ask for it.
Oh, you've got to ask for it. Don't grit your teeth and think everything is going to magically get better.
No. In fact, you could make things worse if you persevere in the wrong position.
Yeah, yes. So soreness can get worse if the baby continues to be attached in a way that's damaging the skin.
So ask for help.
Ask for help. Give your baby lots of lovely skin-to-skin contact in the early days, and that nurtures the baby's instincts to get on the breast in the right way as well.
Heather, thank you very much. She's fallen asleep now.